less than 0.2% of the world's population hold nearly 50% of its billionaire wealth. It is one of the most startling facts in economics, sociology, and faith. Around 15 million Jewish people live on Earth today, a population smaller than many global cities, and yet nearly half of the richest individuals share this tiny heritage. This is not merely a story of money. This is a story of survival, education, faith, tragedy, and triumph. Tonight, we travel back 4,000 years to the call of Abraham in the desert. We walk through the sands of Egypt, the streets of Babylon, the courts of Rome, and the ghettos of Europe. We sit in the study halls where rabbis taught children to read the Torah. We ride with migrants fleeing persecution to America. We step into Wall Street, into Silicon Valley, and into the skyscrapers where modern billionaires rewrite the future. What makes this group so resilient? How did they turn centuries of persecution into power? And is there a deeper, spiritual reason for this outsized success? Let's uncover the truth. The story begins with one man, Abraham. Genesis 12 records God's words, "I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and through you all nations will be blessed." From this promise, a nation was born, a people who, despite slavery in Egypt, wandering in the wilderness, and centuries of conflict, never forgot their covenant. They were small from the start. When they entered the land of Canaan, they were a cluster of tribes, not an empire. But what they carried was unique: the Torah, the law of God, and a belief that they were chosen for a purpose. From the time they could speak, children were taught to read, to question, to memorize scripture. Education was not a privilege, it was a duty. This early commitment to literacy would become their secret weapon. As the centuries passed, empires rose and fell, but the children of Israel preserved their faith. Babylon fell, Persia fell, Greece fell, Rome fell, but the Jewish people endured. In 70 AD, the Roman legions crushed Jerusalem and destroyed the Second Temple. The survivors were scattered to the ends of the earth. This was the beginning of the long diaspora, a wandering that would last nearly 2,000 years. They were exiled, yet wherever they went, they built communities. In Babylon, they compiled the Talmud. In Spain, they became scholars and merchants. In Eastern Europe, they founded yeshivas and preserved the Hebrew tongue. Persecution was constant. Expulsions from England, Spain, France, pogroms in Russia, forced ghettoization in Italy and Germany. And yet, persecution had a paradoxical effect. It kept their communities close-knit, forced them to rely on one another, and sharpened their ability to adapt. Because they were often banned from owning land, many Jews turned to professions that were portable: trade, finance, scholarship. They became moneylenders in medieval Europe because Christian law forbade Christians from charging interest. This made them targets of resentment, but it also built a sophisticated understanding of finance that would shape future generations. The 18th and 19th centuries changed everything. The Enlightenment opened doors. Restrictions were lifted. Universities began to admit Jewish students. Jews entered science, medicine, literature, law, and politics, and excelled. Families like the Rothschilds revolutionized banking, financing railroads, governments, and infrastructure. Jewish thinkers helped shape modern philosophy: Spinoza, Marx, Freud. By the early 20th century, Jewish intellectuals dominated fields like physics and mathematics. Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, and others helped usher in the atomic age. Jewish composers changed music. Jewish writers changed literature. Then came the Holocaust, history's darkest hour for the Jewish people. 6 million murdered, entire communities erased. And yet, out of the ashes, a state was reborn: Israel in 1948. Many survivors fled to America. There they found freedom and built empires. Investment banks like Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, and Lazard were founded by Jewish immigrants. Hollywood, the dream factory of the 20th century, was largely built by Jewish producers who wanted to tell stories of hope. Jewish Americans entered politics, media, medicine, and technology at an astonishing rate. Today, despite being just 2% of the U.S. population, Jewish Americans represent nearly 30% of the Forbes 400 richest Americans. The digital age multiplied this success. Larry Page and Sergey Brin founded Google. Mark Zuckerberg founded Facebook. Michael Bloomberg built a financial data empire. Larry Ellison co-founded Oracle. In Israel, compulsory military service created elite tech units like Unit 8200, where young programmers solved complex cybersecurity problems. Beginnings. Then left the army to launch startups. Israel became known as the startup nation, producing more startups per capita than anywhere else on Earth. Jewish entrepreneurs learned to scale global companies from small Jewish teaching commands, tzedakah, giving to those in need. This is why Jewish billionaires are among the world's leading philanthropists. George Soros funds democracy initiatives. Michael Bloomberg funds education and climate research. Sheldon Adelson funded medical research and Jewish education. Wealth, for them, is stewardship, a tool to make the world better. With success comes suspicion. Conspiracy theories abound. The Jews secretly controlled banks, governments, or media. These ideas fueled pogroms, the Holocaust, and modern anti-Semitism. But data shows influence is not control, and with great wealth comes scrutiny. Jewish leaders themselves often stress humility, ethics, and responsibility in wielding influence. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to produce wealth." The parable of the talents reminds us that those who are faithful with little are given more, not as privilege, but as a test of stewardship. Could it be that this disproportionate success is a sign of the ancient covenant still at work? Isaiah 60 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." And so the mystery is revealed. 15 million people, half the world's billionaires. Not by chance, not by luck, by faith, discipline, education, and an unbroken chain of resilience stretching back 4,000 years. Their story challenges the world to rise higher, to build stronger families, invest in education, give generously, and steward influence wisely. Perhaps in the end, the story of the Jewish people is not merely about wealth, but about a light meant to bless all nations. Arise, shine, for your light has come.